I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Detrick. Jordan Redaelli is on vacation. And Andrew Kuo, thank God, takes 0 days off. Andrew, how are you feeling? What's new? How is life?
Man, it's Monday again. I love Mondays now. They're my favorite days. Mondays like Friday, if you've heard. And the worst is over, so I'm rejoicing. Like, it's a smooth sailing from here, right?
I don't know, man. I got a little case of the Mondays.
Oh.
You know, had a wild weekend, went clubbing.
Woke
really
up in
tore it up.
an empty tray of lasagna.
Oh, what a weekend. Yeah, back to the grind. Rise and or grind.
I went to the 90s hip-hop club. I played a game of H.O.R.S.E. It was sick. What a weekend.
But, dude, thank God. The worst is over. According to Cuomo, it is smooth sailing from here on out.
To Cuomo's credit, he says the worst is over, which sounds ridiculous, but he's just talking about numbers. He's as panicked as he has been since the first week, but yeah, the experts told us the worst was over, but that was just about stats.
Well, what stats are they specifically saying are over? That we're going to get... You follow this far more than I do. I know that hospitalizations have really gone down. New hospitalizations.
Yeah.
And apparently they're thinking the deaths are now going to start creeping downward as we receive the positive benefits of isolation.
And the positive benefits of the virus kind of doing its thing. Just getting to everything, you know? It's surveyed the buffet and picked out what it wants, and before it gets to another buffet, it's going to be full and not take anything more. So, like, the numbers were going to hit a critical mass, but it's just like, I always think of the A-Rod, Derek Jeter, no sin bin contracts. It's like we always get on the highest number, but right below it is a very similar number, but it's not the highest. So if this number is like a few hundred less, that's amazing. That's a few hundred less infected people, and hopefully not, but maybe dead people. And that's better, yes, but it's still a huge... Walking down the mountain is as treacherous as going up.
Well, we're talking about more or less a forest fire burning itself out to a degree.
Yep, that works.
That's, you know, and that doesn't mean that if we start making... I don't know, brittle brush and then like burnable trees available again, it won't start burning up the entire mountainside again. That to me is that's the frustrating part here. It's like, we did it. We went inside, we stopped it from going to every corner of every person, saved lives, got the medical system, hopefully has this somewhat under control. Like, well, what now? Okay, the deaths are going to go down. New cases will go down. But when are we going to get back to normal? And be like, I don't know, 18 months?
Right. It's like a sustainability issue. It's like, we stopped cutting trees down. We did it, guys. And then when you look at the stats, it's like, oh, you just cut down all the trees. So there's no more to cut. But yeah, the frustrating thing in New York as we sit here, week 5, week 6, depending on when you started first reacting to this, is the only message we've gotten from our leadership is don't get it, and if you do, best of luck. But that's all we've gotten. It's not like, hey, we're gonna put like vans in front of Dwayne Reed's, and we're going to test you, and you can line up or you can sign up for a time so you don't kind of gather in front. And we want to test everyone in every neighborhood once every 2 weeks.
Absolutely stunning.
It hasn't happened.
That there is so little testing. that
Yeah.
you basically just can't get a test unless you are a celebrity or wealthy or have access through some, personal connection to testing, unless you are gravely ill
Yeah.
or dead.
Like, do we have these masks yet? Like, there should just be like bins, like in the in the movie theater when you drop off your 3D glasses. There should just be these cardboard bins in every supermarket for people just to take masks if they want them. Like one per person, so they don't run out. But like, take a mask, have a mask. This will all help. I want the government to spend like $100 million on just masks.
To that point, I've seen a couple videos, you probably have as well, of police physically grabbing people on public transportation for not being far enough apart or not wearing a mask. How about this? How about cops carry around masks to give to people?
Yeah.
Like, instead of putting your hands on grown adults and yanking them off the bus, give them a mask. Like, it is wild to see that. And those are moments where you're like, we live in a garbage can police state. Like, this is just fully unacceptable. It's like science fiction. 40 cops surrounding someone and dragging them off of a bus while wearing masks because that guy doesn't have one. Just give him one.
Yeah. And you're wearing the mask so he doesn't have to, and hopefully he'll get one so someone else doesn't have to. I always used to think like the worst part of us exists on like social media or like in road rage, like we talked about last week, or like a jogger running by you and be like, fuck you, and then running away. Like, that's the worst version of human beings. But when we see, like, I saw a video of some cops trying to break up two people who are sitting next to each other, and the two people are like, we're married, we live with each other, we live in the same house, so technically we've been quarantined together this whole time. They're like, you still got to be 6 feet apart. And they're like, no, we are married. And it's really tough for like somebody to not get the last word. And if you're inclined to become a police officer as your career, I imagine accepting that you could be wrong to be very difficult.
Well, that's the problem when we talk about reforming, police agencies, is that the kind of people who become a cop are a specific type of individual. Mm-hmm. And they are not poets.
Right. They don't travel. They don't have takes on leather gloves in Portugal.
No. They only have takes on leather gloves to put around your neck.
If you don't have a mask on.
No,
or if you look a certain way. Right?
You can never trust law enforcement to police themselves because they will never do it. They become cops and are part of that arm of government because they want the world to be in a certain way. They want fascism. Like, that's what the cops want. The cops want a police state where they run shit, where they do whatever they want. Like, they love grabbing someone off of public transportation and wrestling to the ground for not doing what they say instead of giving them a mask. Because they view themselves as muscle, as bullies. They don't view themselves as helpers. Or maybe they view themselves as helpers, but that's not how they interact with the public. I don't know. My platform is always massive defunding of law enforcement. How about this? For every time a cop loses a lawsuit, because they used excessive force, that money comes out of the police budget. Doesn't come out of anywhere else, just the police budget. Like, okay, that you lost a $3 million lawsuit. Sorry, like 10 of your coworkers are going to get fired. You're losing like 10 cars. You're not getting new guns, whatever the hell you guys want. No new surveillance equipment. You lost. Oh, that's another lawsuit. Sorry, another 50 cops have to get laid off. How about that? Can we do that?
I think I fall on the side of paying them a ton more money. So I think cops should, if they make a lot more, the theory would be, and of course nothing works perfectly, these are all theories, that smart people would end up wanting to be cops, and it would kind of change the dynamic of who chooses that profession as a career. Sort of like politics. If you pay politicians a lot more money, then second generation wealth won't be as interested. Like, smart people would want to be politicians and cops.
I agree with that in theory.
Yeah, it's just a theory.
No, I mean, it makes sense because, you know, the starting salary for New York City cops is really low.
Yeah, yeah. And you're driven, right, and then that kind of creates a population of police officers who come from family lineage, who maybe, like, I don't know, have temptations of like skirting the system a little bit,
but have also been indoctrinated into sort of like the thin blue line ideology for their entire lives.
Right.
And it's very hard to change that. You can put a progressive person in charge of the cops, which rarely happens, but
No.
they're not going to change the way that someone has, who has been brought up as, like, as you said, like a third generation cop.
Yeah, and you're right. It's like you would hope cops have ideologies, but really what they have is culture. And the culture of being a cop in New York City seems to be a bigger idea than like the belief of what a cop should be.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't even know. I don't talk to enough cops to know what their outlook is.
Yeah.
Like, do they think that they're the good guys? Sure, everyone thinks that they're good guys, right?
Everyone is right and everyone is the good guys. They're not the baddies, and everyone has karma. They're on the right side of karma. But I had a buddy of mine that I have to admit that I still have not forgiven, because around 10 years ago, he said he was giving up on, I believe at the time he was a bartender, and he was going to join the police force. And it's somebody that you and I both know, and he was just like, yo, like, I'm going to start, going into the cadet program, and then hopefully by this time next year I'll be a cop. And I was like, why, dude? He's like, I don't know, it feels like something I should do. His father was not a cop. He has no lineage of that. He had like a really cool girlfriend. I'm like, you have a lot of things going for you. Your father and grandfather are not cops. Don't be a cop. And he gave that up to start restaurants, which was cool, but I have never quite forgiven him.
I'm gonna be a cop.
Yeah. This was like a whole summer where he was like, well, this is my last hurrah of nightlife because I'm going to be a police officer. And I was like, dude, stick to nightlife. Like, what? He was kind of like, he is pro Jordan #1 all time. He thinks LeBron doesn't play the game the right way. He's the type of person you would expect, maybe, if you're a Cookies Hoops listener, He thinks Ben Simmons as a coward, all that stuff.
Oh, total cop behavior.
He loves Donovan Mitchell. He forgives Rudy Gobert.
I mean, I think if you were like, all right, can you be like a homicide detective? Could you be
that's enticing
in counterterrorism? Like, are there
right.
in this vast universe of law enforcement? Could you come up with an idea of a job that sounds like it would be more virtuous than like a Flatfoot, just like pounding the beat?
Well, he wanted to be a beat cop. But like, he has some of that personality anyway, and this is my subjective bias coming into play for sure. As soon as he says that, I'm like, yeah, you've always kind of been a cop. But he loves to bartend, and tell people what's up. He was kind of a hard-ass bartender. Now he's back to bartending, which makes me happy because he's a good bartender. But wanting to be like right all the time is something that I can totally understand, but is just like not the best part of anybody.
I mean, that's easy for you to say as someone who's consistently wrong.
Right. Klay Thompson's kind of good.
Oh, see that.
Steve Nash is kind of good.
We need a cop here to sort this out.
Dirk Nowitzki, good player.
Oh no! Arrest this man. But anyway, the worst is over.
The worst is over. We're tested. We're all negative, and if you're positive, they have ways to help you. It's all clicking in. It just took us like 5 to 6 weeks to figure this out.
We have got it under control. I say open the country back up.
Yeah, because
let it wash over us like a warm breeze.
America back, baby. It's funny how when we needed stuff like testing and masks, our White House was like, yo, the governor's got to do this. And now that Trump really needs his homies to start making some money, he's like, okay, the government, the governors of every state are in control by the White House. So that was the most frustrating development recently, along with the whole Fauci firing drama. But it's like, we're doing this ass backwards, man. Nothing is making sense. And can we get some smart people in the room? And the answer is
No.
Fauci might get fired for someone's ego, and this is just what we're doing now.
We have the worst possible people in charge at the worst possible time. And a lot of, and a lot of these issues are exactly what you'd expect, considering those two dynamics. Worst people, worst time. And without going into a doomer situation, we have not reached the absolute nadir of what can happen and what maybe will happen in the United States as a result of the conflation of those two things. The worst possible people, just vile subhumans running the country during an unprecedented public health problem, or at least unprecedented in our lifetimes. Just two incredible vectors aligning in an election year. Really the sweet spot, man.
I mean, there's like a general manager's talent in that, like, people who are inequipped to do certain things are just bad to have do certain things. And this is sports related and GM and team construction related. The people we have in charge, and when this thing went down, the first thing we said on Cookies was like, every step of leadership has to be awesome right now. Whether that's your house, your job, your governor, your president, like the alpha in your friend circle, like, it's fucking time for this, man. This is no joke a little bit. And having people who are ill-equipped grab that microphone is like Royce the 5'9" showing up on on your Saturday night. Be like, now I'm thinking about Royce the 5'9".
I mean, I can't just call this a lack of capability. I can't just call it a lack of talent, because that's not what we're talking about, though. When we're talking about the White House, we're not talking about, it's just not in their, they just couldn't do it. Like, they didn't have enough effort. They didn't want it enough. It's the worst human beings. It's not a matter of intelligence. I mean, it is to some degree.
It very much is.
But it's tied
hand in hand.
But it's tied to other things. It's tied to greed and vanity and just a total callousness towards humanity. I mean, it is the worst of all worlds at the worst possible time. I can't come up with a better or more interesting way of even really portraying it. I just don't view it as like they weren't up to the task.
Yeah.
They just didn't have they got to the rim and ran out of talent. Like, that's not exactly what this is either.
Well, maybe what I'm saying is I stopped caring about the White House like a few years ago. Like, I don't like any of their policies. They're very predictable. Like, they're more predictable than the hours in your day, the sun setting, But what I've really tried to grapple with is, like, what kind of person is happy with them. And a lot of these people are people I don't necessarily disagree with everything on. I'm happy and I love to disagree with my friends and people I talk to about many things, but trying to figure out, like, this White House is doing a great job for some people. And a lot of people just say that, tribalism, etc. But, trying to figure out if you have the fucking patience during that deadly pandemic. Like, we're arguing about the post office, dude.
I just view this as a byproduct of both parties doing nothing for people, so it becomes very much like sports. The Knicks winning or losing has no bearing on your life in reality. But
it might, though. Like, happiness is real, self-care. I hear you.
But that's what I mean. Whether they win or lose, your life stays exactly the same outside of maybe emotions. And you don't benefit outside of your feelings of self-worth or being right or lording it over other people. Those may be actual things you can benefit by in terms of how you feel, but this is exactly what I'm saying. When the Democrats run on a party of we're not giving you shit, and the Republicans run on a platform of we're not giving you shit, you end up saying, okay, well, I'm with this team, so their victories mean stuff for me. Like seeing the liberals triggered, that's a victory for me. Seeing Trump up there with his shit-eating grin, you know, chastising someone from CNN, that's a victory for me. That's my team. And I think we've gotten away from like tangible results into like emotional results.
Yeah, I mean, it goes beyond, it's more than just basketball, but it goes beyond watching hoops with that culture of like, do you even watch the games, bro? And that goes quickly into politics or the economy or things that actually matter. And when we have no games to watch in all these fields, then I think a lot of our take-attitude is deeply entrenched in our bias, right?
Yeah, and I'm not only saying this is specific to the right wing and Trump supporters. We saw the same thing with people being giddy over Pelosi ripping up a sheet of paper or doing a sarcastic clap. These are like emotional victories that have no actual bearing on our lives. And I think we've just gotten accustomed in the same way we have in sports, the same way we have in arguments about bans. And I think politics has just become kind of another vessel for taking a side and camaraderie amongst your own and going against somebody else. And I think that's, as I said, a byproduct of neither party actually tangibly helping the average Joe.
And I think this is weirdly a byproduct, and I agree. And this to me is also a byproduct of technology, because we used to argue about bans, we used to argue about movies, but technology has kind of leveled those playing fields in a way where I think identity politics is such a big thing with the Zoomers, with a Z, and it's because of the kind of deconstruction of the architecture of like how charting works or how concerts work or all of that. And now we have politics, and I think every generation goes through the most intense time in the history of the world. I cannot imagine going through the Vietnam War. I cannot imagine going through World War One, Two, the Spanish flu. Like, those are all seismic changes on Earth, and this is a similar one. And I think the technology has really played a big role in this, not in how like we look at our screens, but how we think and how we behave.
I would say every generation feels as if theirs is the one in which apocalypse strikes.
As they should. They're right.
Well, you only have your lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, your death is apocalypse for you.
Yeah.
You're
on the wrong end of karma eventually.
You know, so I think most people probably view that as, well, I think if the world's going to end, I kind of hope it ends, you know, while I'm here.
Yeah.
Kind of want to see that the whole thing go up in flames.
Yeah.
If you're still here, you kind of won.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting hearing the Zoomers say, like, or maybe the more millennial say, oh, I've survived like 2 economic crashes in my life, WTF. And I'm like, that sucks. That seems like the apocalypse, and it is the apocalypse. But I've talked to our father's generation where they're like, air raids still give me nightmares. I'm like, what? It's just like, yeah, I'm afraid of like airplanes because they used to bomb my town. And I'm like, that is wild to me.
Like, oh, right, Jewish people lived through the Holocaust.
Yeah. It feels like insanity.
Any group of people who lived through genocide, like that still goes on. If you talk to someone, you know, who was like a member of like Hutu or Tutsis, they're like, oh no, I went through apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like I was in Rwanda. That was my life.
Yeah.
That was the end of the world.
I mean, there's people alive now that were like major players in the civil rights movement. I'm like, yo, that is like, it's surreal kind of, because like it it just feels like a different universe. And we, like, not to get too hokey, but like we've come a long way, and we always get, this virus is random and it hit us in a random way, but those things were kind of choices, right? Like when the Surgeon General says more people will die from smoking than this virus, I'm like, the clapback was immediate. It was like, yeah, but smoking is a choice. This virus just kind of descended on us, and we have to deal. And I'm like, right. And then everything we make at the jump of the virus is a choice.
Dude, that guy is that guy is insane.
I don't have a lot of confidence in him. So.
Oh no,
no.
And Pence's health guy, really weird.
No. I mean, he's a Surgeon General. Not that the Surgeon General matters anymore, but, like, it's policy still. So I'm worried when everybody on TV is just like, oh, this is not even the smartest person in my friend circle. Like, and my friend circle ain't that much, It's like, I just have very awesome regular friends. But, oh, my God, the smartest friend I have could do a better job. And he's not even a doctor. Or she's not even a doctor.
And every time you see a new character introduced to the Donald Trump extended universe, it's like Mead Tony Pizza or whatever. It's like, oh, here's another Dick Tracy villain.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the head of a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
Everyone is worse than the other one. They all have a bad hairpiece and have been divorced 3 times. It's just a rogues gallery of the worst human beings, man.
You may have defeated Fatface, my Surgeon General, but now here's Mr. Moneybags, who's in charge of the economy. I'm like, whoa, this is a lot, man.
Yeah, everyone's just another Swamp Thing from Scooby-Doo.
I love that. Like, I want every NBA team to, like, represent, like, the city that they live in. So, like, the Utah Jazz would be, like, Mormon cops, and the Celtics would all be leprechauns. Like, I love that. So I love the idea that the person in charge, Mnuchin, would just be like a money-grubbing Richie Rich guy, and it's kind of happening.
Oh, kind of. Yeah, you sort of got your wish there.
I got it. Be careful what you wish for, guys.
Well, what we all wished for was an epic beat battle between 2 pillars of the hip-hop community and real rap.
Are we talking about Lil Uzi Vert and, like, Lil Pump?
No.
Are we talking about anybody who's younger than 25? Who's charting currently?
Absolutely not.
No. Who are we talking about?
We are talking about Large Professor versus Ski Beats.
Ski Beats, wow.
No. RZA, the Resurrecta, against Primo. DJ Premier. It was on Friday night. It was. I don't think it was as popular.
Is it Friday or Saturday?
I don't even know, man.
It's the same shit.
The same thing.
It's Saturday right now.
Maybe it was Saturday. Whatever. I honestly don't know. But they had a lot of sort of technical issues early on. Sound was not great. Not a ton of showmanship. But what was unique to me was the comment section was just full of every rapper from the last, like, 25 years just popping up and, like, giving up a thumbs up Joe Biden emoji.
I was skeptical that it wasn't just a bot going through, like, all accounts that were verified in the rap community, because the takes, aside from your boy Nori, who was being kind of funny, being like, I was farting the whole time, whatever. Everyone's like, thumbs up, real shit, mass appeal, hashtag mass appeal, great song, you guys are king. And I was like,
flames.
Yeah, you guys claim to be the wordsmiths. Like, here's Black Thought. He's just like, yes, amazing. And I'm like, yo, can someone make a joke? Can we, like, Periscope is hilarious. When you watch, like, a pay-per-view boxing match, which I never do because that's stealing, but if you did watch a pay-per-view boxing match on Periscope, the comments are hilarious. They're not just emoji flames. It's jokes. And watching the comments of this boomer entertainment special was predictable, but also very comforting, man. I felt nice for half an hour.
Yeah, why is it just Instagram? Because it's this small little box that just kind of encourages tiny comments, flame emojis, woo, hell yeah. Like, is it the
Big tune?
But that's what I'm saying. Is it that? Because I've noticed that I don't really comment too much on Instagram live stuff either. But when I have, it's also like super short, like 5 words.
Right, because it scrolls so fast. Because you type and you think you're gonna get lost in the moment, and they're gonna switch songs on you. So you're just like, amazing, instead of being like, amazing, but not his best song. Here's my top 10 songs that he's done that he hasn't done yet. Like that just doesn't work in the architecture of Periscope.
So, did you enjoy the battle in terms of excluding the fact that your favorite rappers like Saigon and Papoose and Graph all showed up in the comments?
Afu Ra, Jeru the Damager.
Aside from that, the sort of communal element of every mixtape rapper or dude from back in the day from New York City was on there. Did you enjoy the spectacle itself?
It was a long, strange trip. I love cracking that tub of ice cream, but I was crying in it 30 minutes after. I felt so much shame for participating in this boomer ass activity, but I was in heaven halfway through the Neapolitan box of ice cream. I was having a great time, and when it was all over, it was just tears, man.
I think I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say Primo or RZA did very much showmanship or had that much strategy, it seemed. Maybe I'm wrong. But I did really enjoy it just because I like so many of their respective beats.
Primo's beats kind of held up. I was skeptical. I thought RZA was gonna wipe Primo, even though, Premier has been behind some of the most recognizable boom bap albums ever, or songs. But his beat sounded weirder in 2020 than I thought. Am I wrong there?
I kind of agreed with that take, because you had said that to me, that some of it's so sort of jarring and discordant that it really sounds interesting, especially with the current environment of rap is so like detuned and melodic and we've kind of moved away from a lot of that very sort of identifiable production. That's one thing I kind of dislike about a lot of new music, is that the beats kind of sound the same. And it's very much about the hook and the performer and the artist really coming to the forefront to create a record with their own melodies and their own hooks. And I think that's cool. But it's rare that I hear a beat and I'm like, wow, that beat is amazing. Yep. They're very sort of reserved a lot of the time now. And I'm only talking about right now, not like, I think you look at like Shorty Red's beats for Jeezy, like they were just bangers. Or like some of Metro Boomin's ones that he did for like,
wow, yeah.
They're great, but a lot of production right now, to me, kind of stays in that almost ambient zone. And Primo stuff is the exact opposite.
I thought that was the big takeaway for me watching both these guys was this is how policy affects art, because I think we've moved away from this like cascading, hyper sampled, quick moving around of references in a beat because of lawsuits. And I think in the course of 25 years of lawsuit after clearing samples, after not being able to release a song because it has a sample that someone is claiming ownership of, people have just been creating their own sounds. And it's really shaped the way this music has evolved. And I remember one example was the Love Movement, right? Q-Tip lost all of his records in a fire. And, he was one of the kings of sampling. Like, he was so good at it, and he kind of defined that sound as well as these two guys. And he lost all of his vinyl in a fire, so he made the Love Movement out of, like, new sounds that he made on keyboards and computers, which kind of aged better than I thought, but it was panned by that community.
And a lot of those beats were Jay Dilla, who
Yes.
I know is a cult figure and rest in peace, talented dude. He was just not my cup of tea production wise either.
I've never been a Dilla guy, but yeah, also rest in peace, and he's well loved by so many people I respect, so I'll take their word for it. But yeah, listening to these guys go through these samples, I'm like, this could never get cleared. Like, they should put this like on an album and release it. I'm like, yeah, not if they want to go broke.
Also, a lot of modern rap has, as you said, it's created by guys with keyboards, and they have gotten much, much better at the sort of orchestration element of the musicality. Beats shifting and changing, and elements coming in and out, and shifting for a bridge, shifting for a hook. So a lot of times a beat doesn't even have that recognizability that, like, I don't know, like Biggie, like Unbelievable, like, you know, it's just, and it just goes on and on and on. You can hear that beat for 1 second and you know what song it is. Or J-Ru, you literally can hear one note, doom, and you're like, oh, there it is, come clean.
I mean, I think of the Dust Brothers and Paul's Boutique as like almost the pinnacle. I mean, De La Soul can't even get on these platforms because no one can clear their music, right?
Oh yeah, Prince Paul. He was using like seven like well-known samples per song, or like the old, like a lot of old Public Enemy stuff, like Bomb Squad. They just did not care.
Yeah, I mean, it was a new art form that hadn't been policed yet by Officer Mitchell, and as soon as the cops get their hands on it, then like, fun's over, guys, and you got to do a new thing. Now the cops are gonna come for these newbies, like Metro Boomin. It's gonna be like, well, what have I done wrong, and how am I gonna have to change?
But that was my takeaway, and I just going back to your point about Primo, was that he didn't get punished for letting a lot of bad rappers over his best beats, because he at least had a lot of records with guys like Jay-Z, Biggie, and Nas.
Yeah. He's got some bad rappers on those beats, man. Woo! Like,
I mean, come on. Group home beats are fantastic, and it's the most well-known fact ever that those guys can't rap.
Yep. J-Ru, after he stopped collaborating with DJ Premier, is special. It's not especially classic for a reason. And even, and you know how I feel about Big L, I thought he was lifted by Primo. And when you listen to his raps in a vacuum, I'm like, the voice is great. That's what he's got, I guess.
I mean, RZA is interesting because he did not work with people outside of his camp.
I know, it's all Wu-Tang.
It's just Wu-Tang and like the one Biggie record.
And he put out some Kanye stuff.
That's right, yeah. But that was post-peak.
Oh, yes.
Like, all of his records were from, like, and even, there weren't even that many from, like, his own record or from, like, Ghostface's first album. It's, like, almost all, like, Wu-Tang and Raekwon. Those were, like, the ones that had, like, his bangers.
Yeah, no Bob Digital, no Gravediggers. I thought this, that was Prince Paul, right? But I thought he went into the battle like I hoped he would, but it made for a worse experience. I think he was like partying. I think he was like, let's get this over with. I got my drinks. I'm smoking. I'm with my kids. Like, we're having a great time. I'd like to continue my night. So let's just do a few songs and get out of here, you know? And Primo is a true nerd, and he was locked in.
Primo's enthusiasm was absolutely charming. His just, because when he's done his skits, it's him like bitching about stuff. Oh man, like, don't give up our samples or whatever it is. Like, fake MCs, whatever. And to see him up there as such a happy guy and not a bitter guy yelling about like roaches and whatever, and just loving rap and just grinning and like, I'm gonna stay in Brooklyn. Okay, that's a good one. Like, it was really, really adorable.
I mean, the RZA,
that man loves rap.
The RZA being skinny with like in a sleeveless kind of zip up vest with a collar and a fingerless leather gloves, and talking about veganism, I'm like, okay, this is predictable. And Primo in a triple extra large Dionne Warwick beefy tee was like, this is exactly how I pictured it in my dreams.
Shout
in
out
my
Roman
boomer fever
Polanski.
dreams. Yeah.
Shout out Roman Polanski. Bong bong.
Yeah. I mean, Bong Bong is making a comeback now, which is fantastic.
Your problematic hero, RZA.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like that his problematic elements are
Yeah.
him, being friends with like Louis C.K. and not that he was like running guns out of Ohio.
Yo, I think I've told this story before, but I was around that Wu-Tang circle during the Ohio years. It was weird because my studio mate was filming the Bob Digital Kung Fu DVD box set that he was planning to put out that never came out. So all my homies were going out to Ohio to film this stuff. And I was adjacent. I was just hearing stories secondhand. But it was a wild time in my friends' lives. And shout out to like Sean Kim and Anthony Cerniello and that whole crew who were working on this so hard. I remember the story they told me that they were just on set sleeping in like these houses. And they were just eating like fried food and barbecue and like meat. And they had asked the caterers to bring anything vegetal. Just bring a vegetable of any sort. And the caterers were like, we got you. You guys are great. And they brought like variations of French fries. And they were like, our brittle New York constitutions are going to crumble.
Where was that? Like Youngstown?
Something like that. And RZA was in his mansion.
Dayton? I forget. Akron? I forget exactly. I don't even think it was Cleveland or Cincinnati.
No.
Or one of the...
It was in the sticks. And
yeah.
I believe my friends were staying with like the Kung Fu masters. And RZA was in his bigger house. And it was just like a really surreal time because that was before Iron Flag, I think. I think it was the lead-in to maybe the second Bob Digital record. I enjoy those Bobby Digital records. I think they're really great and underrated. But being around that crew and seeing them occasionally, like, that's the RZA. I recognize the RZA from this battle as the RZA I've always kind of like been in the proxy of.
Looks to me as if it was Steubenville, which is really in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, wow.
Can you do a better beat battle than those guys? Like, should they have been kind of talking more shit? Did we want them to be better prepared? I thought it was kind of content how it was, despite it was not polished or like well done on either part particularly. I mean, RZA needed to crawl under the desk to like reset the router. He was getting advice from people on how to stop using his like Samsung and playing it like, I mean, it was like the technical glitches were sort of wild early on. But could you do a better version of this, or is this kind of all we got?
We can absolutely do a better version of this. This was like the Slack version, not the app. Just like the way they did this was so half-assed. And we're going to talk about the NBA H.O.R.S.E thing later. And I have the same feelings about that. Like, okay, we, according to maybe some doubters and even Kyrie, I'm not sure, we maybe did or did not put a man on the moon. But we surely invented things like fruit leather and turduckens and like high-speed internet and like hydroponic like tomato growing. We can't get better quality than this. Come on. Like, someone step in. Like, some internet provider step in and be like, we're going to jack up the quality for this. There will not be a delay. It will not be pixelated. You guys are going to get the best experience possible. And we did not.
I mean, no, not at all. I saw Diddy was on Instagram Live saying, like, I'll take on anybody, but like I'll take on everyone combined.
Awesome.
And I'm like, oh, Diddy doing this would be incredible because he actually is a showman.
Right.
Like he cares about being a showman, and he can just use all these records that other people made and just take credit for anything that was on Bad Boy. Like,
well, this is
here it is, like Flavor New Year. That's a Diddy record.
Harlem World. I think this is what we were waiting for, right? We talked about this, maybe we're still workshopping it, but the guys behind the scenes, like RZA was more upfront, but Premier, like we're finding out that they're really good at creating the context for this entertainment product, but they don't really have the star power to make it what maybe Diddy can. Because Diddy was not a real nerd, right? He was like an executive producer. He wasn't like Timberland, like collecting NPCs.
No. Diddy was a promoter.
Yeah, he was a promoter.
Literally a party promoter. He was doing clubs and parties and concerts at Howard.
Which is a skill, which is a difficult skill.
Yeah, then he was, I don't know if he was interning or first started working at Uptown Records. I mean, he's been like a party promoter, just like industry guy. He was never, I mean, he might have had opinions on how records would work. He may have had a good ear. He may have been able to identify talent, but yeah, he was not like a digging in the crates guy in the way that Primo is, like literally. And
maybe that's where I'm getting at when Puffy was awesome and was like, I'll take on everybody. I'm like, oh, this isn't your game. Like, this is a producer thing, but let's take it to your realm. You know, like, can we have you versus like Birdman? Can we have you versus Master P? Like, I would absolutely tune in for that.
Who is the best matchup for against Diddy? Because like Birdman, that doesn't work. No. But, you know, like Birdman can't beat Diddy.
No.
He's got hits, but Diddy's just like, because Diddy can sort of cheat. He can just use like 15 different artists' songs or things that he did a hook on or whatever. He's got a lot of available material from a lot of like iconic artists across, from R&B to hip hop. Yeah.
As he plays a Led Zeppelin song, being like, "That's my shit."
that's what I'm saying. He can do, you know, Doc Strange in the Range like Kuo, and you're like, all right, it's Diddy, I guess. It's on Bad Boy.
Yeah. I mean.
People were saying Jermaine Dupri, and I don't think that's even close.
No. I mean, this gets into a cultural debate, right? Because if you throw Master P up there, No Limit Soldier, I think half the country might be like, Master P wins this easily. But in New York, and where kind of these battles are being discussed, would it be Kanye West?
Kanye would be great, but I know who it is. It's Dre. It's Dre.
That would be fun. That would be the most fun.
It's revisiting like the 1993 Source Awards.
I would take Dre in that, wouldn't you?
That's what I'm saying. That's a great one. Diddy versus Dre. That's the kings. I mean, Kanye needs to go against like Pharrell, or Pharrell against Timberland. Those are good little matchups. But we need Dre and Diddy. That would be the best. Like the best way to come back to the rivalry between like Tupac and Biggie is a poorly executed quarantine beat battle.
I mean, Dre's Apple now, so maybe Apple can help out and like make this kind of production value go up. But
because Dre being able to play everything from, I mean, stuff that he actually made and weren't like his crew. I mean, he has people working with him, but it's not like Diddy.
He wins up until even 50 Cent, and then as soon as you start the 50 Cent era, it's just like it's a wash, right? Like Dre kind of takes this.
Dre's really tough. I don't know if anybody can beat Dre though, because you go
Kanye
back
West.
To like
Kanye West.
Yeah, Kanye. Those are the guys, right? Because if Dre, you can go NWA, you can go Death Row Records,
Snoop Dogg,
Dog
Warren
Pound,
G,
Tupac. I don't know if he did Warren G though. Warren G did all his own beats.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was a producer.
They were just related.
Yeah. And then you've got 50 Cent and Eminem. Like you've got
Jesus,
hits.
I forgot about Eminem. Christ.
All those carnival ass beats that he gave Eminem.
Those are great. Come on.
Oh, they're so bad. They're so bad.
Oh, I liked the first Eminem record so much. I liked it. I mean, of course, Eminem was such a good rapper that it was buoyed a little bit. But I remember, I sound so old. I remember, were you around when that Eminem tape was circulating and he hadn't signed yet?
Infinite?
Yeah. And people were making white labels of them to play in the clubs.
I remember it being around, and I remember him winning unsigned hype in The Source back when we used to read.
Yeah.
I don't remember people playing records off of it. I just remember him sounding like AZ.
Dude, I remember I used to be an intern at this magazine or a design company that did Bad Boy and also did this magazine called Stress.
Yo, you know what's weird?
What?
Right before we started talking today, I was like, I kind of want to talk about Stress Magazine. I have no idea how. No one has brought it up in ages. I was literally thinking about that Eminem cover where he did the, why am I spacing on it? Clockwork Orange.
Right.
Stress.
Oh, man.
But I was thinking of Stress Magazine just like an hour ago, and I'm like, how are we going to bring up stress? I kind of want to chat about it. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Because I was in the stress room for a summer, and shout out to Eben Heath, who was the art director there. And so I remember he was like, we had that Eminem tape, and he was like, this white kid is kind of amazing, and we're having a page feature on him. He hasn't signed yet. So he made me go out to the bodega, I believe it was on Elizabeth and Prince back in the day, and I had to buy all the kinds of M&Ms, and we scanned them in the scanner and like arranged M&Ms around photos of him as a teenager, and that was like a whole day for me. And we knew at the time he was going to be big, but I had no idea he was going to link up with Dre, and he just became nuclear.
Yeah, I never loved Eminem's early material when he got down with Dre. I thought Infinite Tape, he was like an exceptionally good rapper. He was obviously phenomenally talented, but I think I liked the Bad Meets Evil single with Royce, and it had like 2 songs on it, and that shit was really good.
Yeah.
But I liked that much better than the stuff he did even on like the Slim Shady LP or whatever. And I remember we were getting promos of that shit, of like Brain Damage and I Don't Give a Fuck, like really, really early.
Yeah. The white labels were going out to DJs. Remember?
I was getting them all promo.
It's awesome. Remember when hot songs had to be pressed onto vinyl and like express delivered through a bicycle messenger to Funkmaster Flex?
Well, what's probably really surprising to people who are used to getting music immediately online was that they would have to send out promo vinyl way before something would come out.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I remember having, like, and we're talking about big labels. I remember having like, Been Around the World remix, or like, like what is it? Can't Nobody Stop Me, or whatever. The Diddy stuff. Like 2.5 months before the single even dropped, and playing it at parties and people dancing and going nuts and having no idea even what record it was. We didn't even know Diddy and like who Mace were, and like putting out a record together, etc. But we were like rocking parties with these records months before they actually came out as a single.
And the lengths at which some of the parties I went to were going through to get these songs to play on Saturday nights was amazing. Like, you tune into Funkmaster Flex and wait for him to play the track with his drops, and you would record it on cassette. Yeah. And then at your party, wherever you were at, you would have a cassette player hooked up so you can play the song, and it would be all choppy. You couldn't mix it, and it would have the Funkmaster Flex drops in it, and it would be heaven. You're just like, this is the song, play it again. It's like maybe in an hour,
The legendary pause tape.
Yeah. I mean,
because you'd sit there with it on pause, and then like hit unpause to record, and then like punch it again to stop.
Yep. And why did you want to talk about stress?
I don't know. It just popped up, and I was thinking like, Stress. I haven't talked about that in a while. That was a great magazine, which it was.
It was cool. It was kind of in the same era as Ego Trip, and I remember when I was interning at the company, was called Stereotype, and Brett Rollins would roll through, and he was the Ego Trip crew, and it was all the same people, and I really loved those guys quite a bit. Not only were they kind to me, they really showed me like New York City. They, we would be like, we'll take a 2-hour lunch, and we're going to go to Zoo York and hang out with Harold, and it was just an awesome few years, and those guys are really great guys. I have awesome memories of that crew.
And they went on to do things like found Double XL, get into reality television. I mean, those guys, a lot of them stayed in like the sort of, even I want to say some created like Marvel Universe shows and things like that.
Super talented.
Yeah,
super
those
talented.
Those guys were not flashes in the pan. They were genuinely really talented guys.
Oh my God, yeah, for sure. And that's the joy I had watching this kind of battle go down, because it brought that rush of memories back. And I don't want to apologize for that, but I also felt like I was at some point later on, maybe half an hour later, participating in something I no longer enjoy, which is like, these are the hottest tracks. Is Mass Appeal the best song ever? And I'm like, no, it is not. Can we just like enjoy this? But eventually you get to LeBron versus MJ debates, right?
Mass Appeal was one of those beats that, for some reason, I felt as if like rap pundits loved the Mass Appeal beat. It was like always listed as like one of the best beats of all time.
Yeah.
It was like, I thought it was like, it was cool.
It's not even the best beat on that album. You know, like...
I wouldn't even put it in the top 5.
Yeah. I mean, it was a nice song, but... yeah, right. It was a producer's song.
But wasn't it also something about the moralizing of like real rap and like, oh, you want to go mainstream, Mass Appeal. The same reason that we like O.C. Time's Up. It's like there was something tied into like the sort of regressive approach of those records along with them having nice beats. It was the message of like purity and real rap and like rejection of mainstream success or, you know, non-New York music. Same way, even like Common's "I Used to Love Her" is just like a hating ass song.
I was gonna bring up that Common song.
Like, oh,
it's such a bitter song.
It's such a great song. Like, is it?
Yeah.
Is that a great song?
No.
Oh, I used to love her. Now she's a slut. Like,
terrible. Yeah.
That shit sucks.
No,
Again, I liked the record at the time. You look back now, you're like, this is gross.
Gross. And I like Common. Like, Water for Chocolate's a great record, you know?
Hip hop's a whore.
Yeah. But he got famous with that bitter ass song. And
Hip hop used to be beautiful. Now it's a whore.
yeah.
Everybody's screwing her. A couple guys used to do her out in the park. She went to L.A. Ugh.
Thankfully, none of that stuff really came out in the chat section of this battle, right? Like, there wasn't, like, new rappers suck. It was just a bunch of old heads hugging each other virtually.
Well, speaking of bad production values, the NBA's their latest attempt to throw some meat to their caged audience was not particularly well orchestrated. It was a horse competition with some retired players, some current players, WNBA players, announcers, I think. But it was shot individually in each player's, you know, own residence or wherever they could find a place to play. And it didn't seem like it was really well... It didn't seem like people really knew exactly what the other people were doing. It was very glitchy and clippy. Again, kind of to the point of the beat battle. Why was this so poorly done for a business that's worth billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars? How was this not better?
I know the NBA and ESPN have like a staff of tech people working on stuff, but sometimes when I watch these poor productions after all this build-up, I'm like, technology isn't like air or water. It's not like a natural resource. There has to be good people at it, and you have to pay those people, and those people have to do a good job. And it doesn't seem like anybody was there to quality control this thing. I mean, it comes down to basic things like, oh, you're going to be outside. This is going to be hard for people to see screens. And there's going to be a 4-second delay. And everyone's dealing with different weather and temperatures and wind. And while it was really fun to see BBM legend Paul Pierce shit his pants twice in his career, it was not enjoyable. It was hard to follow and hard to build up drama. And when you see CP3 losing, he's like, well, I lost that. I'm like, yeah, you just missed some shots in an outdoor court. Like, who cares?
Well, the built-in problem is that H.O.R.S.E is not a exciting or fun game to watch anyway. So you throw in a lot of elements of that you described: poor technology, miscommunication, bad courts, you know, people who are not professional, you know, basketball cameramen using an iPhone to watch someone take some shots. I don't think it was any better or worse than we probably would have anticipated.
True.
It was kind of cool to see, Mike Conley's indoor court.
That was fun.
Like that's sick. Paul Pierce's really ugly outdoor court with like a leprechaun logo in the middle of it.
Zach LaVine wasn't playing on his own court, was he?
I don't.
He made some money.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it was like to that point, like with all this Zoom stuff and all these broadcasts from people's houses, I'm constantly scanning for background stuff. I'm like, you didn't read Infinite Jest. That's on your shelf. It's just like, oh, what's that dog? But
Trae Young just in a driveway.
Yeah. And I'm like, he hasn't gotten his max contract yet. And you realize that there's like different tiers of these athletes because they're all on the same court wearing uniforms when we see them and we know their contracts. But I'm like, oh yeah, Zach LaVine and Paul Pierce and Chris Paul certainly have made their money, man.
Well, Trae Young, it might not even be a money thing. He could have just been at home. I mean, he's 21. Maybe he said...
That's a nice driveway.
I don't know. I'm saying maybe he went to his parents' house.
True.
Like, who can say? I don't know. Maybe he's sitting at his own house. Maybe not. No clue at all. But, yeah, I mean, Mike Conley's was briefly the highest paid player in the entire NBA.
Yes.
For like a matter of days until someone topped it. But the fact that he had kind of a high school gymnasium as his place to shoot around, not surprising at all.
No, and like he chooses how to spend his money, and he loves. Maybe he just wanted to make that thing nicer than Paul Pierce's situation, but.
Well, Paul Pierce's is nice because it looks like he's in LA where like real estate is more expensive, and you can't just build like a gym for yourself necessarily. Yeah. But you can have an outdoor court that definitely seems like it's used for like hanging out. Yeah. Like people go over there and like play ball and shoot the shit and drink some like Michelobes.
Shoot the shit from their mouths and shoot the shit into their basketball shorts during playoff games. But the Chris Paul footage was interesting because on the right side of his court, it looked like there was a fence and some shrubbery and then something municipal looking. It was like a kind of a block. It was almost like a garage for big vehicles. And I was wondering if that was actually a city building or if he had a property big enough where he had to have that kind of construction for his own zone, Well,
I just have no idea where. I didn't pay attention to where those locations were. Like, I don't know where Chris Paul lives.
No, I don't know either. I'm assuming LA, but just because he was a Clipper and it looks sunny.
That makes sense. That's what I mean. Yeah. Like, I just have no idea. If Mike Conley is living in Memphis still, then him having an enormous, or he's in Ohio where he's from, having an enormous gymnasium is like the cost of, I don't know, like a studio apartment in New York City.
It's like one cause figure from Toronto. But yeah, it was not exciting and everything. I'll take that back. My take is it was really cool. It wasn't a huge deal. They didn't make it seem like a huge deal. They told us it was going to happen. They told us the details and it was modest. And we're kind of in a modest time right now where like, this is really serious. It's not just dealing with boredom. And they read the room maybe.
The NBA has put up 2 bricks so far.
True.
This is not easy, and I'm not being overly critical or judgmental. I'm just saying they bricked twice. The gamers didn't work.
No.
And neither did the horse tournament.
No.
I don't know what else you can really trot out unless you open up trades and free agency.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who the NBA creative director is without Googling, but I would say like there's a talent there and they might not have that, which is fine. We've never seen this situation. But I would tune into like I was going to say like a barbershop thing, like listening to players talk to each other, but these players are not interesting as like entertainers with their thoughts. They're geniuses on the court. So to ask Trae Young to entertain us for 20 minutes talking to Gary Payton is going to be a dud.
I don't even want to give them ideas. Because, like, why should we give them ideas?
I don't know. To enjoy our lives
No,
collectively.
I'm thinking about it. Like, I have an idea. Do I want to just give them an idea?
Oh, this happened with me in the Nets. I've told you the story a million times. I hated it. I came up with the idea of Baby Sly. And
Wait, what was that again? I remember you describing this, but what? Tell me about it. Start it over.
lesson learned. One of the Nets PR people / like creative directors took a meeting with me and my buddy, and he bought us one beer each, or 1.5 beers. I don't think I finished the second one. No, I bought the beers.
Oh.
God damn it.
The
Anyway.
beer bully has logged on.
Yeah, and he basically took out a notebook and was like, what do you guys think we should do, like, for the fan experience? And I was so young. This was still when the Nets were in New Jersey. And we were, like, spitballing takes. It's like, well, I forget the other ones, like celebrities and different colors, and the jersey's boring, and why the color gray. All these things were on the table. And then finally I was like, Sly is a cool mascot. It was a fox, Sly the fox. And I was like, why don't you have mini Sly like Austin Powers, and they can interact with kids on kids nights and kids days, day games, and you can run mini Sly all over the arena, and people love to take pictures with him. And he was like, yeah, I don't think any of these ideas would fly, but thank you for the time. It took them 2 weeks to make mini Sly. It was a lesson that I learned, because I thought he was going to bring me on as sort of like a regular consultant, and I never heard from him again.
Your legacy in Mini Sly lives on.
It was a good idea, man. A mini fox running around taking pictures with kids. It was cool.
Some blog called Zombies and Dunk declared them the NBA's creepiest mascots. So
Sly was kind of handsome, so maybe that was creepy. Like, Sly was a fox.
Got it. Clever, yes.
No, but, like, is it creepy? Was Sly creepy because he was proportioned, like, he wasn't body positive? He was, like, svelte and, like, dashing?
I don't know.
Was Sly too sexual? I'm going to throw that out there.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think that there is a tough association between New Jersey, Nets, and wolf dogs.
Because Michael J. Fox got the girl when he turned into the wolf, but lost the girl when he turned back into Michael J. Fox, right?
Also, I know this was a long time ago, but the Timberwolves existed too, right?
Yeah, that wolf was even better, I thought.
But why would the Nets also have a wolf? Oh, it's a fox. It's a gray fox.
Yeah, I think it's a gray fox.
I mean, I assume they probably exist in Jersey, but I really just don't think of foxes when I think of Nets, which is a fundamental problem with the name Nets, and that should have been changed when they went to Brooklyn.
If you could pick any
What a terrible move! Not rebranding as a different name than the Nets.
If you could pick any mundane thing on a basketball court to name a team after, what would you pick?
That's what's wild. The Nets are like far down the
balls,
the rims, the hoops.
Yeah, the hoops,
cookies hoops,
the glass, the floors,
the net,
the ceilings. Yeah, the Nets is oh man, the New Jersey Swish would be good, right?
I've said this theory before several times. I'm going to quickly say it again, is that I think when they went to Brooklyn, they wanted to change to become the Brooklyn Kings. And it was at the exact same moment when it looked like the Sacramento Kings were going to move to Seattle and would become the Sonics again, so that the Kings name would sort of open up again. And if you look at it, it was when Jay-Z was around. Obviously, for those who don't know, Brooklyn is Kings County. And you also had a mascot who was the Brooklyn Knight. So everything seemed kind of in place to just become the Brooklyn Kings. And then the Sacramento Kings stayed where they were. And in my theory, then they just remained the Nets. I don't know if this is true, but I do think that they wanted to rebrand as the Brooklyn Kings.
What's your theory about their court looking like gangrene? Why is that wood a greenish tint?
Are you talking about the gray court?
Is it gray? It has
gray.
hints of.
It's gray like a fox.
It has a chromatic hint of green to me.
That might just be your TV or whatever sort of potato
Technology.
chips are discoloring you. Yeah, no, it's gray. That's why it makes the Nets in their non-colorful uniforms like really fall into the background and puts a team like, you know, whatever, the Sixers wearing red uniforms really pop on their court, but the Nets don't. I think that was a poor decision. I actually liked the sort of more, was it a parquet floor they had before? Whatever their original floor was, I thought it looked really good on TV.
Well, remember they had the weird subway identity in the sidelines, and it was like fake painted tile or like a tile pattern, but not the court itself. Yeah, it was regular. The Nets have really a tough time with branding, it seems.
I think the problem lies with the name Nets. It just does not inspire you in any direction.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're like, all right, we're Timberwolves. All right, we got some color schemes. We got a wolf. All right, we kind of know what we're doing here. We can work off of that. Nets, you're like, okay, our color scheme is black and white, and our team name is the Nets. You're like, pfft, we are screwed.
I think they're more hurt by. You're right too, but I think they also might be hurt by like the authenticity vibe of Kings County. Like Brooklyn is such like this is real hip hop, right? And it has to be black, white, and gray. I'm like, oh man, right, because real men don't like colors. I forgot. Like Biggie Smalls would never consider red or blue.
He would never wear a Coogee sweater that made their only good uniform ever.
But like you have an opportunity to access the Coogee vibe, and you only put it on the trimming. Let's go. Let's put it on the whole thing.
Seriously, just do Coogee uniforms. Fuck it.
Awesome. I would kind of have to buy one.
You know, but they say real men don't like colors. Real men don't like desserts.
Don't like appetizers? Sus.
No.
Sus.
Really questionable to eat a dessert. No, is that a slice of pie? What are you, a woman?
The normative date was going great, or any date was going great, until you got something sweet at the end of your meal.
I don't know. The conversation was engrossing. We were lost in each other's eyes, much as if what happens when you gaze at Ricky Rubio.
Two Rubios.
Everything about it was fantastic. And then the guy ordered a creme brulee. Like a Frenchman. a brulee?
Zut alors, is that chocolate molten cake?
I'm sorry, is there sugar in the... Is that confectionery sugar?
I mean, okay, so we're referring to an online debate that was happening this weekend about sus behavior on a date at a restaurant.
Now, sus behavior, generally, I construe as being homophobic, right? That's what we're talking about. Like, but let's just pretend it's not for the sake of this discussion. Let's just pretend it's, like, questionable. Like,
It's a wonderful word lost in a horrible meaning.
Let's just say it means that someone that's not untrustworthy. Someone that can't be trusted. Or is
that's better. Like, a sus police officer is just sus because he's a police officer.
Yeah, so we're not really being like, would it only be a homosexual who's ordering a slice of apple pie? We're saying...
Way to ruin a good word. Jerks.
Questionable.
Yeah.
Is it questionable, Andrew Kuo, to order a dessert on a date?
You baited me because you know I love to order multiple desserts, man. Sometimes I just say, like, just bring them all. I love desserts, man. They're the
sus
best.
As hell.
I'm totally sus, man. I wear that flag. Yeah.
You fly your sus flag.
I'm going to fly that sus flag, yes, proudly, because I'll do this move at a restaurant. I'll know what dessert I want, and then I'll ask the server what their recommendation is, and I'll get both.
My thing here is the suggestion from the sus accuser that they don't want a dessert but the man does, or that they want a dessert and the man shouldn't have a dessert, or they shouldn't share a dessert. I don't really. I get that, like, you're sus if you order a dessert, but what's the context here? Is the woman like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go have, like, incredible sex right now. The guy's like, I don't know. I want a banana split. Like, is that what we're talking about? Or is it she's like, I'm going to get dessert. And he's like, me too. And she's like, oh, gross.
Ew.
What is this? Who is this guy?
Check, please. I'll take my dessert to go. It's got to be both, right? But this is coming from, like, was this coming from a man's POV?
It was coming from a woman's point of view, where she was saying that she thought that guys who ordered dessert were sus.
It's so interesting. This is like, I think it was Mattel who assigned pink and blue to genders because of Barbie and Ken. I could be making that up, but I think it was a toy company that was just branding. And I think this has more to do with the word sweet than actual sugar. Because sweet is a word that is somehow genderized. Is that even a word?
Well, if we're talking about homophobia, sweet is also like a euphemism for being gay.
Right. So I think it's just like, how else would we describe the taste of sugar except sweet? And it's just like, not on my watch.
I gotta say, in the defense of this sus accuser,
go for it.
It is funny to think of a guy
Yes.
after like eating a T-bone steak being like, ooh, let me get a cheesecake. Like, it's funny. Like, it is hilarious. A guy, digging into a massive ice cream sundae. It's funny.
There is an amazing stand-up routine here, and there are jokes for days. So I don't even want to demonize the
I'll
idea.
take the Turkish delight.
Yeah. Seeing a tough-ass guy and digging into like a root beer float is charming and hilarious, and maybe not what you would expect. So shout out to this whole debate.
I'll say this. I think the only acceptable dessert for a man is an egg cream.
Are egg creams hard?
I don't know. Like, when I go over to like the old soda jerk and I'm looking for a man's dessert, an egg cream is what they serve up over at the soda fountain.
Okay, this is where I stand for the woman who brought up this debate, because men a lot of times demonize women for ordering steaks. Like, shouldn't you have a salad? It's like, ooh, I want the pasta carbonara and crab legs. And men are just like, shouldn't you get a salad? So yeah, fuck it. Let's do this whole thing. Let's just make jokes about eating in general.
I also feel like this is fair play, because when we're talking about comedians, there was like a whole genre of comedy in like the 80s and 90s dedicated to women who are ordering items that were too expensive on the menu.
Yes.
It was a thing.
Yeah.
She ordered the lobster.
Yeah.
That's from the pussy side of the menu.
Oh no. Yeah, I mean the classic
that was like a literal like joke from someone's like stand-up performance. It was like a thing, like women, you know how they are when they get the menu.
Yes. In that classic movie Booty Call that I loved, which was set in Chinatown, I remember the scene where Tommy Davidson orders a shrimp fried rice, but there's only one shrimp, and his date was too demure to get the shrimp fried rice, so he gave her the one shrimp. And Jamie Foxx and Vivica, I forgot her last name, Vivica Fox?
Yes.
Or just like, what a stand-up guy. This is the right guy for you. Look, he gave you the one shrimp. And
that was a thing, man. Like
that was a thing.
Women ordering expensive food. Is that something that still gets? Maybe we're just too old for that to be like something that we think about a lot. Like, oh, you go on a date and like wish she'd ordered the flounder instead of the sea bass.
I mean, maybe we aged out of that kind of era in our lives, but I don't know. I always thought the compatibility of like two people, whether it be romantic or not, is like whether you agree on food. And it's
Or,
like,
sorry to interrupt. Or do we just
go.
share everything now?
I love sharing food, but I have good buddies that don't enjoy that, and I respect them, and it's hard for me because I grew up Chinese, right? So you plop down one thing and everyone gets a bowl of rice. But, you know, my pet peeve used to be seeing white people in restaurants order the same thing. Do you, man. Do whatever you got to do, especially now in an age of Rona. There is no more sharing.
Oh, man, that's really sad. Because not only when we're talking about Asian cuisine, especially like a Szechuan restaurant where you're just like, all right, order 15 things and eat what you like. The idea that we'll have to curtail doing that is really a bummer to me, where you're just like, ooh, here's my entree. Here's my sus-ass dessert.
They're going to come with like, have you seen that Pizza Hut has been putting tape on their pizza boxes, being like, no one's tampered with your pizza. I'm like, it's a piece of tape. But we're eventually going to get meals that we won't. Everything will be more normal than we think, I hope. But like, what if we get meals at restaurants that are like, that have plastic over them, and they brought to our table and we peel the plastic away for our T-bone, you know? Like,
oh, that's the worst. Are appetizers sus?
This was also brought up on the internet for someone, and you know me, this is all bait to make me enraged. I love appetizers, dude.
Oh. Wow, it's weird how all these sus foods are right up your alley.
Dude, I know appetizers are sometimes like egregiously expensive for what you get, and sometimes are like bits and pieces of leftover ideas from the kitchen. I love them. Bring them out. Like, if there's a interesting appetizer menu list on a menu, I'm down. I'd rather order more appetizers than a bigger entree.
Sus as hell.
It's sus as hell. Like, let's say the entree, like the biggest entrees would be like, you know, red meat or pastas. Like,
oh, yeah, man shit.
I would like to just try that, but not get full on that. Do you know what I mean?
I remember having dinner with our friend Mary H.K. Choi, and she's like, "We don't order salads. What are you talking about?" She's like, "Salads? That's you make those at home. That's not for restaurants." And I don't know if I agree with that, but I respect it.
Okay, she's talking about a Chinese thing. This is distinctly Chinese. When you go to a restaurant, you don't order rice or noodles or salads. You stay away from greens even. Sometimes greens can be had, but like, you just get proteins, because going out in Chinese culture is such a huge event that you don't want to waste your money on filling up. So at the end of the meals, you'll see that Asian families will order a fried rice. That's just to fill you up when the money has been spent. So she's talking about something I totally agree with. I
like this idea.
Yeah, just buy like the chicken, the duck, the fish, and do not mess with the rice. She is 1,000% correct.
So on that point, in Chinese culture, is there, and I'm talking about the style you're talking about, not like, you know, new money where money is no object. We're talking about, as you said, kind of these ideas of like, use your money on what's valuable, the protein, and then we'll have some fried rice to like fill our bellies at the end. Mm-hmm. Would wine at restaurant prices be frowned upon?
1,000,000%. I remember one time I took my 2 college buddies to visit my grandparents in Richmond, and we all went out, and they were just like, it's so good to meet your friends. No holds barred. We're getting everything. And they were like, do you guys want beers? And we're like, sure. There was like 8 of us, and they were like, we'll get beers for everybody. And they ordered 3 beers for me and my friends, 2 friends. But what they meant was 3 beers for the entire 8 people. So we were all sipping out of them, out of the Budweisers in teacups, because don't waste it on beer. The money's for the duck.
Right. No, I get that. That makes sense. And even culturally in like South America, they don't have the same binge drinking in their nightlife.
Yeah.
So there'll be 4 friends, and they'll get like a 32-ounce bottle of beer and just have it in the center of the table and kind of like pour it around a little bit so people have something to drink.
Yeah.
But it's not okay, next round up, beers and shots. It's like sit at a table and kind of gingerly like it's very sus, really.
And it goes both ways because when you go to a place like Taiwan, and the most humble of restaurants where you just pull up like a stool or an upside down bucket and next to the street side, they feed you beer aggressively. You get a Taiwan beer, and everyone gets their own 32-ounce Taiwan beer, and you drink them out of small cups, and that's a tradition too. But when you go to like a banquet dinner, in my experience, maybe this talks about my demographic economically, like we couldn't have wine and food.
I mean, I definitely enjoy going to a Korean restaurant, and I feel like beer is the suitable accompaniment for that.
OB.
Yeah, OB all day. Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah.
But the wine things make sense, and without belaboring the point, going back to the idea of like people running up bills, to me it's like never actually with the food that was ordered. It's always the drinks. Like if you sit around and you're like, oh, let's have another bottle of wine. Oh, let's start with a cocktail. That's where you're actually spending the money. It's not because someone said, I'll have the hake instead of the chicken. It's the cocktails. That cocktail was $17. Oh, that bottle of wine was $60. All right, so we spent $160 before tax and tip on alcohol.
And the alcohol just sits there in a bottle, so it never goes bad. Like the most threatening thing to a restaurant would be a French restaurant, let's say, would be half of the covers just getting a steak and nothing else. They would go out of business. If everyone just ordered a steak with no coffee, no drinks, and no appetizers or sides, they're in the red.
I wonder about sushi restaurants too. Just because
Sake. Yeah.
There's a significant upmark. Is that the phrase I'm looking for? Markup, I guess, on sake too. Yeah,
and I don't know, but it's no fun to have sushi without a little modest cup of sake,
100%. But yeah, I don't know how all this stuff is going to work when things reopen. It's like we might be in an era when everyone will have to start having like corking. It's like you have to lure people into your restaurants. I don't know.
I know.
It might be really tough.
It might be really tough, man, because in order for this to get back to your point, like we need restaurants to make money off of wine, but we don't have money to go to restaurants, and the government's not helping us. So,
and now we're all getting acclimated to buying copious amounts of wine for our homes.
How's your wine supply looking these days?
I got a case.
Something good?
All different stuff. I don't know. Some of the stuff I know, some I don't. It's all red, but it's like 12 bottles of wine just ready to go.
Yeah. What kind of wine drinker are you? Are you like at 6 o'clock? Do you have a nice glass? Do you have one before bed? I don't know. I'm not a wine guy, so teach me.
No, I like it with meals. I'm not a wine mom per se, where it's like, crack open a bottle at 5. That's okay. I'm not judging it. It's all right.
That's nice.
But my thing is more, I like it with cooking. Like as you're cooking, you kind of start drinking a little wine so that by the time you're ready to eat, you're, halfway through a bottle. Maybe yeah,
I like that.
I like that. That's my speed.
That's cool.
Now, before we go, I have one really important question for you.
I'm ready.
Are entrees sus?
Depends on what gender assignment you identify with.
I don't know. Do you want a huge hunk of meat?
If you want a double order of spaghetti, of wet noodle, that's a lot of lasagna. I think that's a little sus.
Entrees sus. Do real men drink wine? What do real men do?
I know, because real men don't drink martinis anymore. That's some like Michael Douglas Wall Street stuff like 30 years ago.
I know real men do real things.
Well, Carmelo Anthony and your boy retired NBA star Jimmy Butler, they're all about the wine, right?
Okay, so real men can drink wine.
Yes.
Subject to change, but for the time being, real men can drink wine.
Depends on how high you rank Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul and Jimmy Butler and LeBron James. But yes. Does Michael Jordan drink wine? I don't know.
Oh, for sure. You kidding?
For sure, right? Yeah, he loves wine and he likes beers, and I think he likes cocktails and
Like
he probably
cigars.
likes champagne,
That's a real man right there.
some whiskey. Oh, right, you would have to get a whiskey.
He likes being on tables drunk as shit with a cigar. He is a real man.
In my friend circle, I'm known as the guy who will always get the spritz and the fruity drink because I love to be refreshed.
I gotta say, man, you know, you're really ticking off the sus boxes. First the appetizers, or first the desserts, then the appetizers, then the entrees, then the spritzers.
Holy cow, you basically described the first meal I'm going to have. You might even be there. You will be in the company of the most sus dude ever because I'm going to order a nice salad to start the meal. Or if I did this Chinese way, maybe like a nice clams casino. And then I'm going to get a fruity drink, something refreshing like a grapefruit spritz. And then I'm going to go easy on the appetizer and get 3 desserts.
So like some kind of...
the entree.
What about a Greyhound? A Greyhound, that's a man's cocktail.
I enjoy a Greyhound, but it might be too flavorful. I want something even lighter. Put some bubbly, something neutral in there.
This grapefruit is stinging my mouth.
Years ago, I had, every bar you go to regularly knows what you like, and they knew in the summer months I enjoyed Bud Light on the rocks with a seltzer. So I would top my seltzer off with Bud Light, and they made fun of me until they tried it, and they were like, "Oh, this is awesome." I'm like, "Yeah, it's super nice."
Barkeep, do you mind de-aerosolizing my tonic 50%? Just give it a little shake before it gets to my table. I don't want to hurt myself on it.
Dude, those humid-ass New York City roach nights, and like 2 of those, you could have 3 drinks and just go through 1 bottle of Bud Light.
Those are the days. Maybe again, someday.
Someday. Cookies.
Cookies.